Hey guys, welcome to my channel. I'm Serena and I am your go-to source for all things sensitive. Today we are going to be talking about the 3 major things I learned from being homeless. So let's get into it. Welcome to the video. We are talking about the 3 things that I learned from being homeless. And some people say homeless. I like homeless because it sounds so dramatic. But some people would say like nomadic, I guess would be a good term to describe it. Is like I lived like a nomadic lifestyle I'm still living a nomadic lifestyle for like almost the last 2 years. And we're just gonna be talking about 3 major things that I learned during this time in my life because it was super, super valuable. I'll tell you what, like right off the bat, it's not for everybody. There are so many pros and cons to it. And it's, I'll be completely honest. I'm highly sensitive. I'm empathic. I'm an introvert. And there was rough moments for me in those like 2 years, very rough moments. So with that being said, it's not for everybody, but I think everybody can learn from it. So the first thing I learned from my homeless lifestyle was minimalism is key. You cannot be homeless or be nomadic or be traveling for an extended period of time and like literally take your entire house with you. Some people can because they have like a tiny house that they can drive with them. But even then, the amount of stuff that you have is very small. So for me personally, it really depends on what you're willing to commit to, right? Because I wore a lot of the same shirts and still am wearing a lot of the same shirts for 2 years straight. And so minimalism is all about this idea of just getting rid of the excess, right? One of the things that I learned, especially from packing, is that everything has a multi-purpose. You don't have anything that like I wear or use that doesn't have more than one purpose. So even like cooking gear, for example, most of this time I was camping. And so our cooking setup was like this big. We had 3 plates, 3 bowls, 1 knife, 1 fork, 1 spoon for each person, and you just don't have multiples of things. So the cool thing about that is everything's a lot smaller. The not so good thing is that if you lose something, like you're kind of SOL, especially like personal items. If you lose a hat, I'll like share a small story. There was one campsite that we were at in, I think it was maybe like Arizona or Nevada maybe, and my partner went to the bathroom and his hat fell off of his head into the like pit toilet. And so he was like, there's no way I could get it back. It was like, 6 feet down and covered in shit. And so like when he lost that hat, it was like, oh my God, like I handpicked that hat because it fit me right. It was the right colors. It matched everything I had. It was like the right amount of warmth. It was, like everything. So when you are traveling and you have to be a minimalist, it's like everything has a really specific purpose. And when you lose something, it can be like kind of detrimental. The second most important thing I learned on my 1.5 to 2 years without a home is home is where the heart is. And I know this is so freaking cliche, and I know everybody says this, but it's really, really true. There's actually a Trevor Hall song that I love. Trevor Hall's my favorite artist, so I might be biased, but he has a song called Wander. And in this song, he says, my home is where I wander. And so that was like my theme song for like 2 years of my life, because it's so true. Home is where the heart is. And for me, there was a period of time I was traveling with 2 other people throughout the continent of Africa. And I met somebody on this trip and just really just fell head over heels for this person, and then continued to travel after meeting them and leaving them. And I remember feeling like, oh my gosh, like my heart isn't in this anymore, because it's so true. Your heart is, where your home is, and your body is like where your home is. So it's like wherever you are is where your home is. And when you're traveling with people that you love, you find out really quickly like who matters in your life and who doesn't, especially because of the fact that like when you're away from home and like for me, even when I was traveling throughout Africa and I was on the other side of the world, you know, major time differences, no internet a lot of the time. So like I wasn't talking to like any of my friends for like months at a time, or definitely at least weeks at a time. And so you really start to find out, like your circle gets a lot smaller, you know, and you really start to find out who matters and who doesn't matter, or who's supporting you and who's rooting for you and who's not. You know, if things happen when you're on the road and you can't reach out to that person and say, hey, can you send me something, or can you help me, or, you know, things like that, then you start to figure out really quickly, like, okay, this is my tight-knit group. And for me, actually, when I was traveling, my relationship with my parents actually healed and got so much better because of the fact that I was able to take that space from them. A lot of times I think this happens for kids when they move out of the house as well, is like they get that space from their parents and they realize like, okay, like these are all the things I appreciate about them. This is all the ways I am like them and am not like them. And so for me, this transformation did happen slightly when I moved out on my own, but it happened even more when I was traveling because the conditions I was in were so drastically different from what I was used to at home. Even in my own home, before I sold my own home, you know, the conditions are so different, and a lot of times you just really need support, especially for myself as a highly sensitive, empathic, and introvert traveler. The amount of support that you need is just immense. So I would send my family like 30-minute long voice messages on WhatsApp and just tell them like everything that I was going through in those moments. And that really helped to repair my relationship as well. So the third most important thing that I learned in my years of being homeless is that you save a lot of money. This is so, so true, especially depending on how you're doing it, right? So obviously, as we all know, having a home requires a certain amount of money going into that home, whether you're repairing things, whether it's rent, water, utilities, like all of that kind of stuff. When I did not have a home, literally did not have a home, I was living out of the car and I had a tent, right? So my home was like this big, and then it would expand to like this big, and that's what I slept in. That's what I did my journaling in. That's where I meditated. Like that tent and the car that we were driving, like that was my home. So when we first were traveling, we traveled in my 2009 Honda Accord. So tell me, this was not an adventure vehicle whatsoever. Like this wasn't like your high-end like Mercedes like travel van. No, this was my 2009 Honda Accord that we shoved our backpacks in. We shoved tents in, a couple chairs, and a cooking kit, and that was it. And we traveled like that for maybe four or 5 months. And you know, like we didn't spend a lot of money. We spent money on gas. That was really about it. And because I had a small car, we didn't really, you know, have to have that much gas. A lot of times we would camp, and highly, highly recommend this. iOverlander or freecampsites.net. Those are two amazing resources for if you're looking for free campsites. I believe iOverlander you can find in other parts of the world. Freecampsites.net I believe is only in the US. So you can look at both of those for if you're looking for free places to camp. So half the time we weren't staying in like national parks. We were staying right outside the national parks on like BLM land, and we didn't even pay for sleeping at night. You know, so we had all of our gear with us and we didn't even need to pay for sleeping in the nighttime. That was a little bit less common when we were traveling across Africa. We also had a different car, so there was an expense there. And then we had same tents, same cooking gear, all of that. But in most of the countries, it was hard to find like unmanaged lands. We still did use iOverlander, so a lot of times we did wild camp, but also the animals, as you can imagine, were a little bit different. So sometimes it was nice to sleep in like an organized campground because then you were a little bit more protected from the elements and the animals and all of that kind of stuff. But yeah, definitely, you know, like even when you think about not just the house, but like the amount of stuff that you buy is a lot less, because if you're traveling and you don't have anywhere to store anything, you're not buying stuff. So you don't have anywhere to put it. I wasn't buying any new clothes. I wasn't buying, I wasn't even wearing makeup. I wasn't doing my hair. Like, I wasn't buying cosmetics, or like, I had one soap that was for my hair and my body. So like, I wasn't buying that kind of stuff. And I was using bar shampoo and bar conditioner. So like, the ecological footprint was very small. And like, all of these things over time really save a lot of money, because you're not constantly buying, and then your waste also goes down. Think about this even in terms of food. When you're traveling and you're camping, you cook all your own meals, so you're not buying fast food as much. You're also not able to carry a bunch of food with you, so like the things like snacks and popcorn and cookies, like there's not as much of that like room for all of that, so you just have your staples, and you really buy things that are like very calorie and nutrient dense in order to, stay on top of like your price points as well. So definitely being homeless, I've saved so much money. I've lived off of savings for over 2 years, and it's been crazy. So there you go, guys. There are my 3 most important things I learned for being homeless. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, like, comment, subscribe down below. Let me know what else you would like to know from my year of being homeless, if you have any other questions. But with that being said, thank you so much for watching. We will see you next time. Big love, Serena.